So now that we've aligned all these, we're going to go ahead and adjust this specific fence post right here. It's a little too tall. Now, we could always, of course, take one of these other fence posts and duplicate it and replace it. But what I want to show you about this fence post specifically is how it's made up of points. So if we zoom in on it, remember Alt Scroll will allow you to zoom in, or you can use your zoom tool over here. You can see that it's got this path, this blue path where the black line is. And if I click off of it, you're going to see that if you hover over it, that path applies. But then when you hover over certain points, like the top point where these corners are, your cursor is going to say that there are anchor points. So we talked about how you have your direct selection tool, which allows you to select whole objects, but the direct selection tool allows you to actually drill down deep into what is actually creating this shape or this object. So we're going to go ahead and select our white direct selection tool this time. And now when you hover over the anchor, you're going to see that it actually comes up with a little white box to show you that anchor even further. And if I click this, you're going to see that you have not only anchors there, but it's going to highlight every single anchor with a little white square. And then when you click on an anchor and select it, it's going to show that there are even handles. And the handles essentially are creating this curve. So if I click and drag a handle out, you're going to see that it's creating the curve of the line. And we'll get into anchor points and handles at some point, but for now, we're just focusing on the anchor point and not the handles. I can take this anchor point and I can adjust it. So right now, since it's blue, it's the only anchor point that's selected out of all of the anchor points on this shape. So I can just take it and I can drag it downward. And you will see that with the guides of Illustrator enabled, it's going to show you when you intersect and keep it in line with the center of the fence post. And you can let go and you can adjust these individually. So like I could select this point and I could adjust it out. And you can do all these things to be able to create different shapes or change how shapes are. So if we think, for instance, like if we zoom out here, and I'm going to go down to the bottom of this artboard, and I'm going to draw a square. So I'm going to go grab my rectangle tool and just draw, a rectangle or a square. It doesn't really matter what it is. But this has anchor points. So if I then go grab my direct selection tool after clicking, dragging, and dropping to get a square in here, I can grab my direct selection tool and you'll see that all the points of the anchors on the corners are selected. But if I click on one, it becomes the only one available. So like if I wanted to create a triangle, for instance, I could drag this inward and turn it into a triangle, pretty much eliminating the fact that it was a square. So you can adjust these as much as you want to as you're working with shapes if you're wanting to change the shape of it. So we'll get into how the curves kind of work in the future, but what I wanted to show you was the difference between the selection tool, the black arrow, and the direct selection tool, and how they are very different from each other, allowing us to get this fence post to look very together and not have something that's offset.